Okay, so welcome everybody. Welcome to the PoloSIC, and thank you for making it here so late. We are all tired, exhausted, fatigued, however you want to say it. So we have, I hope we have an interesting session for you today. Oh no, dismiss. Just a second. Yeah. If this works. So we want to welcome by Maria. Maria, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you so much. Good afternoon or evening, everyone. I'm Maria Suarez Almazor from the University of Texas, MD Anderson Cancer Center. I am a rheumatologist and I'm one of the co-chairs of the POLOS group. And I would have loved to be there, but unfortunately I couldn't make it to the meeting. There's 3 of us who are co-chairing this work group. And Loreto, you all know, you've seen her throughout the meeting. And Catherine Hill, I'm not sure if she's joining or not, but she's our 3rd co-chair from Australia. Has Catherine joined? I don't see her in the list of participants. No.
She's there.
Okay. Oh, Catherine. Catherine, if you can hear me, maybe you can introduce yourself briefly. I think we lost her. Her name disappeared from participants. Well, let's keep going so we don't waste time. And when she comes back, she can introduce herself. Diego is our fellow. Diego, do you want to introduce yourself?
Thank you, Maria. Thank you, everyone, for giving me this opportunity to be here with you. I would also love to be there, but hoping probably another time. I hope you are all enjoying this stay in Colorado, and nice to see you.
Okay, it seems like Catherine has joined again. Catherine, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, hi, I'm Catherine Hill. I'm a rheumatologist from Adelaide, Australia.
Okay, Loreto, I said everyone knew you, but I think perhaps you want to say a few words about yourself also.
I
Just
doubt.
in case there's someone who doesn't know you.
I doubt that they know. I am Loreto Carmon. I'm a rheumatologist, but I don't see patients. But I'm a clinical epidemiologist. But yeah, can you admit, Kathy? Oh, you did. And yes, I happen to be co-chairing this POLOS. And then we have some others. You want to introduce them, Maria?
Yeah, the patient research partner. So Tiffany, I think I can see you in the little screen. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Oh, there. Yes. Hi, Tiffany Westridge Robertson from United States.
And Niti, go ahead.
Also, Niti Goel from the United States.
I don't know if
I'm also reporting, so I may ask questions for clarification during the process. And Deb is helping us get a piece of paper so we can get everybody's name and affiliation too. Thank you. Sorry.
Okay, great. So we can get started now. It's time for Loreto and Diego to do all the work while I take a background stage.
Thank you, Maria. So I will just do a brief summary of the POLOS SIG, and then we will have the results and the activity. So you know that the outcomes need to be have a long-term evaluation in observational studies, right? And usually the outcomes that we measure in clinical trials are short. So the longest trials could be 1 or even 2 years, but that's the maximum, right? And especially in chronic conditions, it is relevant to have an idea of how to do the studies so that we can actually homogenize the results, right, and compare. So the objective of this working group was to identify and evaluate long-term critical outcome domains that are relevant to patients. This is very important, and that can be collected in longitudinal studies. And also, of course, as the second part, critical outcome measures. What? So Oh, yes, sorry. And we focus on array, yeah. So we did the usual stuff, a systematic review. We had to refine a little bit the conceptual framework because this is longitudinal. It's not the randomized controlled trials. We did the qualitative research and the Delphi. So the systematic review had to undergo 2 steps because we wanted to look at specific registries. So first, we searched for the registries. And when we had the long list of registries, we searched for all the studies done by the registries so that we could get the long listing of outcomes, the domains that they were measuring. So what we found is that more registries collect well function and disease activity, but there is a lot of variability across the registries and longitudinal studies on relevant patient-reported outcomes and symptom burden, mental and social impacts of rheumatoid arthritis. So then we refined the framework. So we wanted to make sure that we wanted to make sure that the taxonomy that we use in clinical trials was similar, or we could use it as well. And one of the things that we found is that EULAR already had a task force that did a list and recommendations on what should be the outcomes in the domains in registries and longitudinal studies in rheumatoid arthritis. So we didn't want to step on the feet, but do something that has even more quality of research, because that was only consensus, right? So then we went to the qualitative studies. We did patient focus groups to identify long-term domains that are critical for them. And for this, we, besides the patient focus groups, we did interviews with patients and their caregivers. Okay, the countries we did this were Spain, Italy, Argentina, Mexico, and the US. So we had a lot of, I mean, different countries than the usual. And the domains were very interesting. So you will see them. And also we found that the caregivers can contribute with significant content. So we found more than 300 themes that we could actually, between the systematic review and the qualitative studies, we found more than 300 concepts. And we mapped them to 57 specific domains that actually represent 8 broad domains. And of course, they can be mapped to the 4 core areas of OMERACT. So just to, I will go through them because I think it's important for the activity that you see them all. So under the domain of physical signs and symptoms, we have specific domains like joint pain, stiffness, and swelling, fatigue, and malaise that can seem similar. But when we had the discussions, and this applies to all the domains, when we had the discussions with the group, the patients said that they want them in. So since these are patient-relevant outcomes, we kept them. So that's the only reason why we have so many specific domains. We also have cognitive fog, sleep disturbance, appetite, low libido, and then comorbidities like infections, cancer, cardiovascular, osteoporosis, weight change, consequences of surgery, drug adverse events, fertility and pregnancy. Then under life impact, of course, this was the largest broad domain. We had things related to grooming, housework, transportation, sexual function, walking, dependency on others. You will see this specific domain in 2 places because it was mentioned a lot of times. So we didn't know whether it would be under the physical consequences of array or under other social and participation. Okay. Then emotional mental consequences, you see all of them. You have no idea how many we took away. Then on participation, they talk a lot about the family and the role and hobbies, studying, so forth. Financial impacts, different domains. Many of them overlap, but they were very specific on keeping them. And in fact, this is very interesting from the qualitative studies that in countries where they have universal coverage, this was not an issue at all. But in the US and some South American countries, this was. Okay. Then death, of course, separated these three on purpose, and then societal resource use. So the cost, the indirect cost, and healthcare utilization. Okay, so then we went to the Delphi, and we surveyed patients, healthcare providers, and researchers. So besides our OMERACT list, we had to reach all the registry people that many of them had no idea what OMERACT was. Well, they had some idea, but they were not really easy to get them in. And also it was very difficult to get more patients interested in this. So it took a lot. But now you will see the results with Diego. Up to here, are there any burning questions? Nope. Okay. So now, Diego, it's your turn. I will pass you the slides, okay?
Okay. Thank you very much, Loreto, and thank you also for this opportunity to present the results. As Loreto mentioned, the main objective, the main purpose of the Delphi was to refine the initial list of generated domains to those that participants agree that were critically important for long-term outcomes. And for doing this, we included each of the domains in the Delphi manager adapted for OMERACT, and they were rated by the participant from a Likert scale from 1 to 9, meaning that 1 to 3 were considered not important domains, 4 to 6 important but not critical, and 7 to 9 critically important domains. This was done in this was planned in 3 different rounds. The first was launched in March 2022, and the recruitment continued during several months by different ways. The second round was launched at the beginning of April 2023 and was closed at the end of the month. While the first round included 57 domains, as Loreto mentioned, the second round included 71. These 57 plus 14 additional domains that were added following the comments of the participants in round 1. The third round is planned to be launched soon. So we will now see the results concerning the participants. In the first round, there were 442 participants. As you see, 64% were patient research partners and 155 correspondent to other stakeholders such as healthcare professionals, industry participants, and so on. In the second round, there were 268 completers, 59% were patient research partners, and 109 other stakeholders. So moving on to the characteristics of the participants, they were quite similar in both rounds. So to summarize, we will just see the summary of the first round, in which 3/4 of the participants were female, whereas 1/4 was male. And as you see, the ages were quite heterogeneous, but most of the participants were in the ranges from 50 years to 70 years. However, as you see, if we go to the group of all others, most of them, the majority will be in the age range from 40 to 49 years, with 47 participants. And for the distribution in different countries, you can see that it was very heavily distributed across the world. Many countries, 37 countries, participated in the survey, which I think, well, I was really impressed when I joined the project. And as you see, well, there are some countries that had a lot of patients, for example, Australia, United States, and Canada. And it's also of note that if you see the map in these countries, there were many patient research partners that participate in the survey, notably in Australia and United States. While in Europe, there were a mix, but there were many all other stakeholders. So moving on to the results for round 1, here we saw we can see the results of the outcome domains that reach consensus either in and out. But the case was that no domains reached consensus in being left out. Remember, we remind that for being left in, we need that at least 70% of the votes of the participants in each of the groups, namely in PRP group and in other stakeholder group, have this boundary, more at least 70% or more. So as you see, there are domains that belong to different core areas. For example, domains that belong to pathological manifestations such as joint pain and joint swelling, domains that belong to death such as disease-specific mortality or treatment-related mortality, and domains of the societal core area. All these 5 reached at least 70% of the participants rating as critically important, and therefore they will be included in round 1. Nonetheless, there were also some domains in which there was dissensus, meaning that one of the group rated at least 70% of the participants with a 7 to 9, but the other group did not. And as you see, for example, in the domain of joint stiffness and direct cost, the group of patient research partners, at least 70% of them rated them as critically important, while it was not rated as critically important by other stakeholders. On the contrary, the domains of drug adverse events, walking using stairs going out, dependency on others, overall mortality, and out-of-pocket costs were rated by at least 70% of the votes fell within the range of 7 to 9 in the group of other stakeholders, while it did not reach that threshold in the other group. However, there are some domains, for example, drug adverse event, that you can see that they were very close, and this will be up to discussion probably later in the groups. So moving on to the proposed additional outcomes, as you see, there were many outcomes proposed in this first round. There were actually 72 comments, out of which 58 proposed to add a new additional domain besides these 57 that we had. Nonetheless, many of these domains were already present in the primary list, or some of the comments were repeated or overlap. That's why we did an exercise within ORSIC, and we look for the additional outcomes that were of value to be added in the round 2, and these are the 14 domains that have been added to the round 2 and up for voting in the results that we will see now. So as we see here, in round 2, there were many more domains that reached consensus. Domains also in the different core areas. Here, actually, we have the 4 core areas represented. We have pathological manifestations with joint pain, joint swelling, overall pain. We have disease impact with fatigue, cardiovascular, stroke, hypertension, drug adverse events, overall quality of life, walking using stairs going out. We have death, disease-specific mortality, treatment-related mortality, and we have societal with direct costs, healthcare utilization, and out-of-pocket costs. All of these domains had at least 70% of the votes in both groups in the range of 7 to 9. Again, no domain reached consensus in being left out, meaning that no domain had at least 70% of the votes within the range of 1, 2, 3 in both groups. There were also, again, some domains with discrepancy between groups. You see that some of them are quite close. Again, for example, in cancer or infections, that we have 64% of PRPs against 75% of other stakeholders. Even joint stiffness, 69.4 in other stakeholders does not reach the threshold of 70%. Osteoporosis and fragility fractures, burden to others, dependency on others, grooming, death, personal hygiene, satisfaction with treatment, overall mortality, and direct cost. These are the domains that we will also now discuss how to deal with them, especially some of them that the boundaries were really close to the threshold. There were also some other domains that did not reach 70% in any group. Therefore, they are in this gray zone. There are actually 48 domains that did not reach this 70% of the vote, and neither in the 7 to 9, neither in the 1, 2, 2, 2, 3. So it will also be up for discussion in the coming minutes. So this is basically the results, and I will be happy to take any question you may have or to discuss the result. Thank you.
Just one question to clarify in my mind. I thought the focus was on PROs, right? No. These are on the initial domains. Is that how?
No. This is very relevant what you're asking. The focus is on relevant domains for patients. Yeah, it looks like there are PROs, but no, it's relevant domains for patients. Yeah. Any other question? No. Okay. Thank you, Diego. I mean, it's 1 o'clock, 1:30 in the morning, and you have an early flight. You are dismissed. You can be. I mean, you go to bed, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so it's fantastic because we are even ahead of time. You cannot talk bad about the Spanish people, right? We're right on time. So let's see what we have prepared for you. And we're hoping we have enlightening discussions. So we prepared 3 questions. One is, what should we do with discrepant domains? Could you tell what led to discrepancy between the groups? Because maybe by understanding why they are discrepant, we can think about other strategies. Then the second question we have prepared for you is, what should we do with domains between 60 and 70%, because this might happen with some of the discrepant domains. Okay, and then the last one we were put as an example of for binning and winnoning yesterday. So should we lump or bin domains, and if we lump them, should we do another Delphi, or what? How should we treat if we now at this point lump domains? What should we do? So you have in your tables 3 sets of exercises. We have even here. So the idea is that you spend the next 30 minutes talking, and then we will speak up. Okay. Any questions on what you have to do? Yes.
Just a question. Do you expect that the number of domains will be similar for what we normally have for clinical trials? Should a course set for LOS be similar, or is there allowance that you collect more?
Yeah. No, this is all we have. So yeah, so this is something that we have to discuss actually. When we did all the refining of the conceptual framework and so forth, we realized that perhaps this needs to have more impact and consequences than perhaps the clinical trials. Yeah.
I think your question is very important. Is it do we have 7 to 9 in the core? In the core. Oh,
sorry, what? No. It's because yes, he asked before. Yeah. No. But you can start. So this is something that we will keep and we will discuss afterwards. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
We are coming back. So I hope you're ready to help us. So now we need to have very clear reports from you. So. Yeah, because I have some problems of understanding sometimes. So let's have somebody from each table to go for. We will go for the first question, and then okay. So we will just focus on one conversation at a time. I will be very nasty to people that goes to another conversation. No, I will not. I just be nice, but take you out. Okay, this table. How do you want us to do? What do you want us to do with the discrepant domains?
Oh, yes. So the first one, right? Okay. I hope I do just what we said in the group. Okay. So we
thought of lumping a few things in that table, right? And we felt that patient perspective was really important, right? So I think a lot of them, we said it's really important to keep. So can I say the lumping for that table? Is that going to another question? Is that okay? Yeah?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay. So there was drug adverse events already that you have, right? And so we thought that cancer and infections could go into that as kind of components, like.
So drug adverse events or comorbidities?
So that's a good question. I mean, we also kind of talked about that for osteoporosis and fragility factors also. So maybe is it, so that's a good question.
Okay.
Yeah. We also, so we looked at burden to others / dependency.
Yep.
And dependency on others. And we felt these should be, it's kind of the same thing. So we said independence from others or something like that, and it should be included.
Okay.
We felt that joint stiffness should be included because it was high for PRPs and it was really close to 70%.
So
for
the rule
others.
could be if we find something like this in the third round, we can take the patient's voice if this is very close to 70.
Yeah, and the question is, should we just take patient's voice in general, right? Also, or yeah, especially because you're going to another step of the Delphi.
Yes.
Like it's
yes,
kind of dangerous to take off
yes,
domains, I think.
Yes.
The other thing was also, so there's grooming, dressing, personal hygiene, and it was felt to be high by others. And we thought this could be merged with the item you have there of walking.
Yeah. Which
right?
was accepted before, right?
Yeah, and it could be called physical functioning or physical function. So to regroup the physical functioning.
With this one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And together they would be physical functioning, and maybe you have other items to put there.
Okay. Okay.
There was also mortality. So you have overall mortality here, but then you also have on the first table,
yeah,
you have disease specific and treatment
Yeah,
specific.
true.
So it should all be under mortality.
Yep.
And we have I'm not able to say that, indirect cost. So we thought that this could go under cost as a domain cost, and it would be merged with three other outcomes that you have on cost. I think that are part of, is it part of table 1 or this one? Table 1.
Table 1 was
Table 1, which one is
out of pocket?
direct cost,
Direct
out of pocket cost, and all of this under cost. So really we're lumping. So sorry, I think I did I don't know if other teams have the same. I think we said a lot of stuff.
No, I think you guys did a good job. Okay, so thank you very much. I understood everything you said. I really appreciate it. So who wants to speak up in this table?
I as a used car salesman, I can try. I'll respond to the first one. Yes, we chatted about it, and we feel some of us agree that the difference between the groups on its own is an interesting number, academically speaking, kind of like tease out for the interpretation. But otherwise, I think we picked up that there's almost a rule of thumb at the OMERAC level that after third round, I think Bev told that if the patients are above 70 after the third round, then it's probably call as a rule of thumb already.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
So that was we like that idea.
The formula that we decided on. There is something in the handbook about the formula for that, but the patients win out. Yeah. But this was only round 1 and 2. Someone else asked me this question, so that's why you wouldn't take something out in round 1.
Sorry, then we all agreed at the table. All of those where one of the groups in round 2 is above 70 should clearly move forward to the third round.
Yep.
Because we are all looking for convergence, saturation, or survey fatigue. That's part of what we're looking for.
You took note? Yeah. Is that okay?
Would anybody speak to whether we can explain some of the discrepancies?
I can try. So I will try to explain this somewhat clearly. So we were curious about the discrepancy in some of the categories. And so we do think that it would be worthwhile to investigate that discrepancy. And our assumption as a PRP, and I believe the other PRP also agreed, is that perhaps there is, and not in this group, but this group is a bit of an anomaly, a discrepancy with how a patient is viewed by a clinician as sometimes a host of the disease versus a person. And so some factors such as burden to others, which is not seen as a measure of the disease, may be less important to the clinician than it is to the patient. Does that make sense?
Yep, it does. It does.
Yes, and so we looked at grooming as well here because we found that in this case, the patient group scored it significantly less than the physician, but that could be because these items can be seen as physical function and a marker of the disease. So,
yep.
Point, I really struggle with the two questions. Is that burden to others / dependency and dependency on others? I mean, to me, those two are very, very similar. But in the other rating, you have 70% in one group and 41.8%. That's a really big difference. And I couldn't figure out why the big difference.
Maybe is the placing in the questionnaire, because the first one was very early. Yes. And in the other was at the end. So they were tired of answering questions. It's not that long, but I think that could be it.
Okay, sorry. Yeah. So maybe a reason for that is also that patients will look at the questions and start to see like what is most imminent, right? So you might see something like mortality. Okay, yes, that may happen, but that's not imminently a concern. So that may be why you see a discrepancy sometimes as well, because we also sort of psychologically start to value one over the other when we have several questions.
Yes, yes. So you already rank in your head already. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Needy. I was saying about grooming. The reason you might see the high score on the other side is that that's basically physical function, which may be like a measure of the disease, right?
So they pick it out easily because they see physical function.
That's it's been an accepted kind of measure of
Yeah. Okay. So thank you very much. Yes, Tiffany.
I just wanted to clarify when we're looking at the burden to others and dependency that / dependency does throw things off. Burden to others typically means I feel guilty because I'm causing everyone to miss out. It's a very different thing than being dependent physically on someone else. So I wanted to clarify that.
Well, that's a very good one. Okay. So this table, what do you have to say about the discrepancies?
Okay, so we had like robust conversation about this, and we were like really struggling with the lumping too, but we also concur with this table on most things. The one that we did have a bit of conversation more, something different to say, is the indirect costs. We're wondering if the patient or PRP didn't understand what that meant. So yeah, and that's literally what I went.
We should call it either economic costs or call it.
Yes.
So there was a definition in the questionnaire.
Okay.
I don't have it in my head.
Okay, and okay, so that takes that maybe a little bit more out, but that was just something that came across as our perspective of why it would be so different. But we really did come across with a lot of the same other conversations. Yes. Did I miss anything? The other thing that we said was, as far as the grooming, dressing, and personal hygiene, what my thought was is I've had this for 42 years. So if I'm having trouble with that, I don't buy buttons and I don't buy zippers and I don't buy, I figure it out.
normalized it,
Yeah, I figure it out. I have like in my wardrobe, 3 pairs or 4 pairs of shoes that I wear because it's so difficult to buy. So yeah, and I had
Gotcha.
reconstructive foot surgery during COVID. So I haven't really bought new shoes yet because I'm still normalizing. So I'm just, that was one other comment I had about just adaptation.
I also thought about that
Yeah.
one. Yeah. It's like you get used to,
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So we did also mention that in your core, you have overall quality of life already, and some of your grayscale area like anxiety, depression, some of those elements, if you do a general quality of life, you have absorbed some of those already. And just a very minor thing, but that's very arithmetic of me, is that in your the next page, if you look at your indirect cost, if you actually round up your numbers to whole numbers, you actually will have put them into the core because 69.7 is 70.
Yes. So the others, especially the PRPs, think that quality of life is grasping anxiety and depression as well. Yes.
I think health-related quality of life together a lot of these issues about
And together.
the burdens and mental health, and also there's fatigue and physical function and emotional functions. I'm just saying that health-related quality of life would take a lot of these things and be very helpful when you look at the individual domains, because you get emotional and also physical, and you get fatigue, and you get social functioning, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Physical function.
You want to keep it for this? You might
Okay. Tiffany will take over.
Yeah, so we went through and decided how we were going to try to lump a lot of these in the gray area and then what might stay on its own, thinking again of longitudinal and what we would measure a long time. So did keep cognitive fog in there, corticosteroid use, joint deformity, and then we moved lung down to the other comorbidities, which would fall with any of the comorbidities that we currently would have in any existing domains. The HRQOL, like you all just said, with anxiety, coping, stress, we put under there too, and depression. We lumped in under participation, we put in family, social, leisure, kind of made that its own bucket up there. And then we added in the health utility, which is what you were talking about, Deb, under kind of on the whole economic burden. Then we did include a kind of a work area, and that also could be unpaid or unpaid, as in house, taking care of the home. We did keep sexual function in there, and then the self-efficacy or independence, which someone mentioned back there, and self-image and appearance. So that's how we lumped a lot.
Yeah. You still didn't tell me okay. I will ask you afterwards. What else do you have to add in this table?
On the question 1 and 2? Yes. We discussed quite a long time the joint stiffness and tried to figure out why patients found it more important than the others. The idea was to go perhaps back to the interviews, understand why it was. Perhaps it was joint mobility that was meant. So it was not very clear, and it was a suggestion. And we discussed a bit satisfaction with treatment. We liked it. We liked the ID. But perhaps for physicians, it's unknown. It's not a valid instrument how to measure. But it is an interesting idea to understand the impact of treatment on patients. And perhaps it could go to another round. And for the cost, we had a slightly different perspective, because when you assess already healthcare utilization and productivity participation, then you can calculate the costs and you don't need to ask the cost.
Yeah.
With the exception perhaps of out-of-pocket costs.
I think you discussed this in here. Yeah. Yeah. So thank you very much for this.
Online people, are they going to report?
Yes. Thank you so much. So Maria, can you report back from your breakout? What do you have to say about discrepancy?
Okay.
Yes, there she is.
Okay, Maria, as in Maria and Diego. Okay, it's me.
Yes.
Okay, we only met Diego and I, so we didn't really go necessarily to the questions. We were looking at the more than anything else at the challenges that we may face with the next steps. Okay.
Exactly.
Because one of the things that we found or that we were worried about is that we weren't able to eliminate any domains at all. Sorry, my dogs are barking. Let me close the door. Okay, so we weren't sure if then what happens is that everything has to go back again because nothing was able to be eliminated from the Delphi in the 2 rounds that we had. We were also concerned that some of the domains that are there are important but very difficult to measure well, and for instance the costs that again, and there was agreement that that's important, but that may put a lot of burden on investigators to measure them adequately. So we were wondering in cases where something had been agreed by both groups that it was important, but we felt it was not feasible, what would happen if that's supposed to go, because it's been chosen in round 2 already into the core, when there might be issues about feasibility. So, I mean, we didn't really discuss the questions as they were. We were discussing the challenges moving forward, whether we are forced to maintain the ones that have already been approved, and there's also quite a few of them, and what was going to happen with all the ones in the middle, given that we were not able to discard any of them. So that's what our discussion centered on, more than, among other things, because we didn't have the questions. After you put them, they disappeared. So we weren't sure, especially about the 3rd question. But anyway, that
yeah. Okay, so
were our thoughts.
Yeah, so the thing is, how do we proceed now? So we are now challenged with you telling us very wisely to lump things, but the method says you have to just go to the 3rd and then the 4th. So when should we actually lump? Because we didn't lump before. I mean, we lumped a lot, but we didn't lump because the discussions said do not lump. So of course we are able to map back to broad domains, yes, but I really want your insights on how to proceed next. Yes, Martin and then Robin.
I don't know whether this is in accordance to the OMREC handbook, but my feeling is having this SIG and having the input from this SIG, having had also the very nice Bing meeting explaining how you can lump. And I think we all know that having Delphis with more than 70 items really reduce the number of participants. So to make it more feasible, you get now some very sensible input from this SIG. And we have some, we got some guidance from that session how to do this. I would think it is allowed now, before going to the next round, to look which things are really similar and to do some lumping. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure I qualify for a real question or answer here, but except for I completely agree with Martin. And I would actually like to give the microphone to Dorte because she has been very frustrated with the safety. Some of you have seen her list already. And then we were inspired by seeing Bing's presentation. But I even asked Bing, is this transparently valid, if that's a term? Because we don't want to upset our qualitative experts in the group. So that's just a personal note.
Yeah, so you want to say something or?
Yeah, as Robin just explained, we have sort of been through that in our group as well. And I don't see that there is a particular role for when you can lump. And I think that's also what Bing said the other day. But I think some of the suggestions that came now seems to be very feasible. So I think you'll just have to, see what would make sense.
Yeah,
and maybe also have patients involved in that process. Because what we did in the safety group was when we did our interviews, we asked patients about their opinion in some of these also. So that they gave very valuable input that can be used for lumping as well.
So we could have a specific group discussion with all the PRPs in our group? Or?
Yeah, that could be a solution, I think. Yeah.
So first,
So one of the other things I would add is that it's important to be transparent. So I guess in your next round of the Delphi, you will probably explain that some of these items were felt to maybe lumping would be acceptable. And I even wonder if in a Delphi, you want to also maybe have that as an additional question, right? We took these, 4 domains, we lumped them together because of input from, and then it could be an exercise of, do you agree with that? Do you agree with the lumping or not lumping? And so that could be interesting in itself too, to have that information in the Delphi.
That's probably a more democratic way than I was going to suggest.
but go anyway.
But I was actually going to suggest we poll it in tomorrow morning's SIG feedback, that we think we should lump these. Do you agree? Kind of yes, no. Because in the past, we would vote on the core domain sets here with just the people in the plenary, as long as they had enough information. But I think But perhaps the Delphi is a better way to do it.
But the thing is, I find like at our table, we had to ask questions to really understand exactly how we could do this. So I find it's always hard in a big group. You would need probably a bit of time to explain all of this. And then people wouldn't agree because maybe they wouldn't all understand exactly the same thing. I don't know, it's like.
So thank you. That was very useful, very, very useful.
I think it's probably still worth a shot tomorrow.
So I'm going to use example where if you do a qualitative research, what you're then trying to do is to generate from a whole list of work to do a thematic analysis. So the thematic analysis to try to cluster words of meaning will very similar, means similar thing. And because people can use very different words, but actually they belong to the same theme. So this is not so much about being one thing being more important, is whether the things naturally group together. So in the area of psychology research of pain, there are many papers use different words, but they're actually describing the same thing. And that generates the potential issue if you just based on the word, force them apart when things actually belongs to one another. So I don't think it's about making them, I think you need to try to make sense of what those things are. So I use the example in the immune-related checkpoint inhibitor groups to say, if the symptom is arthralgia, that's okay, but think about where it belongs to. Is it pain? Is it tender joint? It doesn't mean that you have to have a new domain called arthralgia just because that's what the patient said. You think about when you're measuring it, what it belongs to.
Yeah, but as I told you, we started with a huge amount. Yeah.
It's more logical to try to do that kind of thematic analysis. Otherwise, you just have a whole list of different names, but actually you're trying to describe exactly the same thing. You can have low mood, depression, blue, actually, they're all meaning the same thing.
So Susan?
Yes. So if you're going to lump, is then the question, is this your third round, or is this going to, and your final round possibly, or is it going to be your first and then a second well as well? And the other thing, I think it's really important to randomize the items when doing a Delphi the next time.
So I just want to add that I really agree with the comment about the thematic analysis. So one of the things also is, I know there was a student, right? There was a student who said, which group was he in? Psoriatic or no, lupus. And I think he said he looked at different definitions. Even when you have many domains, you look at the definition of each of these to actually help with the matching, right? With saying like, is this part of this other domain, by looking at definitions and conceptual framework, right? You have health-related quality of life. What does it include if you look at certain conceptual framework? So then you're sure that you're actually lumping the right things together. Like, I think, there's probably a science to it, into looking at the definitions, not just like, oh, I think, like.
Yes. Well, the problem is that perhaps at that time, there were many definitions for the different domains. Yeah.
I think there's so much confusion in this room, and everybody has such broad ideas about how to lump things together. I'd probably try something like Chat GPT and see what it comes out with. You don't have to use it if it looks odd, but it might actually give you a good framework.
Yeah. Okay. So are there any other comments you want to make on this discussion? No? 8 minutes. Yeah, 8 minutes. So I forgot what was the last. Yeah, actually we answered all the questions, right? So yeah, I think it was, yeah, we're done. Yes. Maria, please.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you very much, everyone. I'm really sorry, Diego and I didn't answer the questions in order, but we didn't have them in front of us. So yeah, I guess we have work to do with the next steps. We also have questions for the OMERAG methodologist, because some of these questions, I think, it's not just, what we want to do, but it's how we do it and how other groups have done it. So it's all consistent across the different groups. So I don't know, Bev, I think you are there. I think I can see you, Bev. Are you there? Yeah, I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot. But,
no, we'll work offline. We
I
want to keep them. They've been literally working 24/7 for the last week. So, but I'm happy to work offline. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of suggestions, but as some of them might be outside the general methodology as described, I think we're going to need to meet with you all to see what's feasible and what's not. But thank you, everyone, for joining and for all your great ideas. And I wish I were there.
Well, we miss you here.
Yeah. How's the weather in Colorado? Nice.
Oh, beautiful. I can't, Diego.
Yes.
Really? It's absolutely gorgeous out there. Nice.
Yesterday we had a thunder, a lightning of 1 minute long.
Can I just make sure, did everybody sort of sign in? Because I see you, Peter, now, and I see you, Lynn, and I don't think I see your names on the sheet. I can add you two, but is there anybody else that's here that didn't put their name on the sheet, sign-in sheet? We're done. Then we are done.